Salut, I'm Pitch. We are south of Puerto Princesa, close to Jacana Road, and today I show you how I do macro photography. So, little disclaimer, all the picture that you will see have been taken here. All the sound that you will hear has been taken here, has been recorded here as well. Thank you. And also, I am not touching any insect. I am not bringing them at home. I am not gluing them, and I am not spraying them with water or whatever substance. So what's cool about macro photography? I think you don't need to spend a lot of money to do it. You can buy very cheap lenses and have some good results. You can use your smartphone. Some smartphones can do macro now. Or you can buy extension tubes. Also, you don't need a lot of light to do macro photography. Use a flash. Or if your subject is not moving, just lower your shutter speed and use a tripod. Also, you can do macro everywhere, because you have subjects everywhere. Especially here in the Philippines, we have insects all year around and everywhere, even in my apartment. Also, in macro photography, you can get some good results very quickly, in my opinion. And you don't have to carry very heavy gears like you do in bird photography, for example. And it's a fun way to discover a whole new world. I think you can buy any recent camera and it will do a good job when it's about macro photography. So personally, I got the Canon R7, but you buy what's best for you. Maybe you want a lightweight camera because you don't want to carry something heavy for 2 hours. Maybe you want a cropped sensor, so you have already some magnification. Maybe you want a lot of megapixels, so you can crop a lot without losing much details. Maybe you want a flip screen. Maybe you just want a good looking camera. Just like I said, buy whatever suits you the best. So right now I'm using the 7artisans 60mm macro just here. Actually now attached to 2 extension tubes, the equivalent of 31mm. As you know, the further the lens is away from the sensor, the more magnification you get. So that lens is very nice, good value for the money, under $150, very sharp in the middle, manual focus, but you don't really need autofocus. Even though I'm more using now the RF 35mm for bees in flight, without flash, under the sun, with a higher shutter speed. And as you can see, there is some good result here. I use also the RF 100 to 400 for insects that are more skittish, that don't let me approach that much, like a dragonfly or that blue bees that you can see here. So my next lens could be the Laowa 60mm macro that I will adapt to my Canon R7, because the focus is from 2:1 ratio to infinity, so I would not have to always remove or put back the extension tubes actually. So you have a lot of lenses option out there. Just once again, buy what works for you. Look at some reviews and maybe buy some extension tubes. So I'm using a flash because it gives me the best results, and also because it helps freezing the action. Without a flash, you have to deal with a lot of problems. In macrophotography you need a very small aperture in order to have the biggest depth of field, and therefore you need a lot of light. You also need a high shutter speed to freeze the action because the subject is moving, or because it's windy, or your hand is shaking, and again you need a lot of light. And you could compensate with a higher ISO, but you will add a lot of noise. So you see that's why I prefer to use flash. Also, flash can give you some black background effect, like you can see on that picture. So yes, you need a flash diffuser to soften the light of the flash. Without a flash diffuser, the light would be too harsh on your subject. Look, for example, at that photo. You can see that there is too much reflection of the light on that ladybug, and you want to avoid that. So there is many different kind of flash diffuser that you can buy. Me, for example, I have this one. It's not the best one, but it's very light, very portable, very convenient. So usually you want the smallest aperture in order to get the biggest depth of field. Remember that the depth of field is actually what is in focus in your image. And in macrophotography it goes from nothing to like 1 millimeter in the best case scenario. That's why you want the smallest aperture possible. But you don't want to go too dark, and you don't want also to have to deal too much with diffraction. Diffraction, another problem, that's the effect of the light bending through the lens. So the smaller the aperture, the more problem of diffraction you will have to deal with. So I go usually for f9 to f11, but it will depend on your lens, on your camera brand, sorry, and what you want to achieve. My shutter speed actually is 100 to 200 because I have a flash. And my ISO is usually very low, 100, and sometimes 200 if I have to do some adjustments. I am manually adjusting my flash, so remember, if you manually adjust your flash, that you are not adjusting the power of the flash but the duration of the flash. So the longer the duration of the flash, the less freezing effect you will have. So once you have all your settings in place, what you want to do is adjust manually the focal length, and it will depend of course of the size of the insect or the subject. Then you want to put your right hand in the normal place, ready to shoot like you usually do. The left hand either on the left side of the camera or under the camera, and I find it that it's a nice way to stabilize the camera like this, with the elbow close or even touching the body, both elbow touching the body. You want your head to help as well with stabilization. Then you want to rock back and forth until the subject is in focus, or at least the eyes is in focus. You breathe out and you click gently. So you want to approach the subject very slowly, very slowly. A lot of them are very skittish, and if you go right to them, they will just fly away. Also, you want to take many pictures and shoot different angles. You want to go at eyes level, you want to go under the insect or right in front of the insect. Just try to be creative. Think about the composition. Sometimes it's not only the subject that you want to photograph, but maybe the beautiful flower where the subject is standing. You want to avoid busy backgrounds, and for that you can use some sheet of paper, colorful sheet of paper that you can do yourself. For example, if you don't have it, you can use, for example, a dead leaf on the ground and put behind your subject, so you will have a brown background instead of a greenish background like you usually get in the wild. So another tips, if you are using flash, maybe you want to photograph in the shade or create shade for your subject with your body or with your head or your camera, for the simple reason that the flash has to overpower the ambient light in order to freeze the action. Maybe you want to go do macro very early in the morning, because as I said, you don't need a lot of light if you have a flash. Also, the insect will not be very active early in the morning, and you can get some droplet of water around the insect. You should probably consider post-processing your images, because a little bit of editing could go a long way, in my opinion. Just a little bit, you don't need much. Maybe you want to touch a bit the contrast, you want to lift the shadows, you want to reduce the highlight, you want to push the contrast a little bit and touch the color, so you retouch the saturation a bit, and that's it. So this is end of afternoon now. I hope you enjoyed my little video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of it. And if you have any question about that amazing place full of insects and birds and life, and I didn't see any snake yet, but I hope I will one day. So just leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any question. And remember that this is not a competition. The most important is that photography makes you happy and that you enjoy your photos. Petit oiseau.